Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Trasimene, Lake Trasimene. Of course, we just did the previous video with Hannibal in Rome, and that was the Trebia River, where Hannibal really just asserts himself as a like, what do you call it? The art of war, basically, for Hannibal starts. In my opinion, it started a little bit earlier before the Alps. However, it really goes to show you how good he is at utilizing or getting inside the head of the enemy. And we're gonna see another version of it here. No spoilers, but get it? Let's jump in and let's see what Trasimene's all about. I already know, but let's get a detailed, different view.
The Battle of Lake Trasimene was the second in a series of three major engagements fought between Carthage and the Roman Republic. All of these battles were significant, but Trasimene is special. It has the distinction of being the largest ambush in military history.
Still? Is it the largest to be ambushed or largest used to ambush?
Anyway, that's what a book told me.
Oh.
If you're anything like me, your first thought might be, that's impossible. What about the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest? Nope, I looked into it. That battle is much more famous, but slightly smaller in scale.
Can't remember what battle that's in. Either World War I or the Hundreds War.
If you're anything like me, your second thought might be, that's impossible. What about the World Wars? Nope, I looked into it. No sizable ambushes to speak of. But then again, if you're anything like me, your next thought might be, wait, what is an ambush? You obviously have to be concealed somehow, but does it count as hiding when you're in the sky?
Pearl Harbor.
At which point you might think, shut up nerd, maybe don't bring it up if you don't know the answer. Anyway, 6 months after the decisive Carthaginian victory at the Trebia River, Hannibal was tap dancing across northern Italy, setting fire to everything, which drove the people in Rome crazy. New consuls were elected on a platform of the guys in office or a bunch of idiots, which you have to admit is a sensible thing to run on when you're losing
I mean, has that really changed to this day?
a war. One of these new consuls quickly threw together a brand new army and left to chase down Hannibal. Once the Carthaginian scouts realized that they had a Roman army trailing them, they deliberately slowed down and let the enemy catch up. As the Romans were closing in, the Carthaginians were approaching a section of the road which had a lake on the right and some steep, tree-lined hills on the left. This is where the battle would take place.
Actually, yeah, pretty good.
After night fell, Hannibal kept his men moving. He secretly continued up the road, turned left, and brought the bulk of his army back up around the other side of the hill. This is where they settled in for the night. I should probably touch on the sizes of these two armies. Hannibal had a total of 50,000 men, with around 40,000 infantry and 10,000 cavalry. His army had grown in size after his stunning victory at the Trebia River. He now had a total of 17,000 Gauls fighting at his side, all of whom carried a serious grudge against the Romans.
I think he had like 38,000 in the last battle.
The Roman army had around 30,000 men in it, and they were mostly infantry with an insignificant number of cavalry.
It's always been that way.
Obviously, the Romans were chasing a larger army, but they may not have known this. My guess is that they were working with old intelligence and didn't know about Hannibal's new Gallic allies. You see, the Romans hated scouting.
Like, I don't know, is that true? I mean, it seems that way, especially in the Second Punic War. But did they really have a disdain for scouting in general?
They thought it was kind of boring and undignified, so sometimes they just didn't bother. This was going to turn into a huge problem. The next morning, the non-existent gods must have been favoring Hannibal, because the two armies woke to a heavy fog. The Roman consul blindly had his army advance along the road in a giant column, without sending any scouts ahead to try and get some eyes on the Carthaginians.
I mean, we're going to see the result of this, but honestly, scouts would have saved so many lives here. If the scouts knew where to look. But still, it's foggy either way, but maybe scouting would probably have saved so many lives here. It could have turned the entire war on its head, because you might have a more favorable bottleneck for Rome in this type of place, right? Because if there's hills to your right and there's water to your left, you can't really utilize the cavalry to go around that easily. So this could have been a really interesting change of outcome here if they scouted.
It turns out that they were watching the whole procession from the top of the hill. Suddenly, the column stopped. The Romans had no way of knowing this, but Hannibal had secretly left some of his elite heavy infantry at the far end of the hill. Due to the fog, the Romans just stumbled into them, and fighting spontaneously broke out at the front of the column.
I guess your visibility was like 10 feet at that point.
The men further back were not aware of the enemy contact, and were just left wondering why the column had stopped.
Okay, if it was that bad, why are you marching in it? If it was that bad, why are you even marching in it? If it's like what I said, like 10 feet of visibility. Now, we don't know what it was, but if it was like that, given the description of how they just stumbled upon the enemy.
At this point, the main Carthaginian force had begun to silently advance down the hill. Due to the trees and the fog, the Romans were caught completely unaware when an entire army appeared out of nowhere and charged the entire length of the column. As this attack was happening, Hannibal ordered his cavalry to backtrack a bit and charge the rear of the Roman column, which cut off any potential escape. Weird side note, the Roman consul was widely known as an expert at fighting Gauls, and famously wore a Gallic scalp attached to his helmet, which is both disgusting and a great way to differentiate yourself politically. Unfortunately, that runs both ways. The Gauls in the Carthaginian army knew his name, knew his face, and knew his disgusting helmet. They made it their business to find him during the battle, and
yeah, that's like a nightmare for this consul, I'm true.
They did. The consul was dead in minutes, and God knows what they did to him. A lot of things were happening at once, and the Romans weren't prepared for any of it. Every escape route was cut off, so many men just broke and ran straight into the lake. Countless men drowned trying to swim in their armor. There's one account of masses of Roman soldiers standing in neck-deep water, begging to be killed. The Romans at the head of the column, who first made contact with the enemy, did have some success. Around 6,000 men broke through the Carthaginian roadblock.
Dang, that's a legion.
And ran like hell. But they didn't get far. They were easily captured some hours later by the Carthaginian cavalry.
Wow.
The battle was over, and it was a decisive Carthaginian victory. They
I didn't know it was that decisive. I did not think it was complete annihilation, but I guess it was.
Lost only 2,500 men, while the Romans lost virtually everyone.
What was it, 30,000?
Around 15,000 Romans were killed, and another 15,000 were taken prisoner. The Romans...
I know Rome... Wait. No, I know Carthage is the same way. Like, I was thinking, I know Rome would basically kill you or enslave you, but mostly just enslave you. Carthage would kill and enslave.
Romans were traumatized by this loss. They had suffered 2 monumental defeats back to back.
Or sell you into slavery.
They decided that next time they weren't going to be tricked, and they weren't going to be ambushed, and they definitely were not going to be outnumbered. Next time, they would come at the Carthaginians with everything they had, and fight in a way that they fought best. As it turned out, the next battle would take place near a town called Cannae, and would become the most famous battle in human history.
Okay, a couple have release there. I don't think that's the... I guess you can say... I mean, technically, I guess you could say that's the next battle. They did skirmish in the valley. Or I guess the Gallic allies were skirmishing in the valley as they made their escape around when in the dead of night whenever they put torches on oxen. So I guess. But it's not like Rome wanted this, like Cannae. It was kind of just forced into it with the Fabian strategy and then changes of hands and then just like the recruitment. And then they get to Cannae and then, I mean, there's a lot of like, I mean, the 2 consuls, I mean, half the consulship does not want Cannae to happen, I don't think. I think it just kind of happens. Going like, it's like a cat and mouse game with like how they're repositioning camps and then it happens and then just set up that way. But Yeah, and I don't think is Kenai considered the most famous battle in history. I think that's changed. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't, but more or less like on a world history format. I don't know. That's an interesting one. The most famous battle in history. Because I would say like Waterloo would be more famous, at least Waterloo, just by cinematography alone. Uh, World War II battles, World War One battles. Gettysburg is more popular than Kenai. I don't know. Maybe I'm just tripping. What do you guys think? I'll let you guys know, or you guys let me know what you guys think is the greatest battle in human, the most famous. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.